How do I turn this into this? This is one of the most delicious wild edible fruits in my area. It's Agarita, Berberis trifoliolata, and they're like nature's Skittles. They're nice and sour and sweet. You can chew them up, seeds and all. They're very easy to identify. They have trifoliate leaflets, or 3 leaflets, which are spiny, and they're very glossy and thick. The only thing that could be confused with them is perhaps an ornamental holly or Ilex opaca. But their form of branching is also unique, with thickened stems that are short leading up to the little leaflets. So these ripen in spring and early summer, and it's a very common species. But the roots and flowers and wood of this species are a bright yellow color, and those have been used for dye by the Apache and other tribes for dyeing hides and basketry material. Now, these fruits were eaten by the Mexican Kickapoo, and they're also well known in Central Texas as an edible wild plant. They're commonly made into jelly and preserves. And these can be found all over. There's a ton fruiting in this area right now, and I've already gathered several pounds of the berries already. But they're not particularly intuitive to gather from. With small fruits like these, you never really want to just pick them off one by one from the shrub, because it'll take a long time. And with Agarita in particular, its prickly branches make it quite a pain to go in there and be picking off all the fruits. So I'll show you an easy way I gather them. It might be seen as a little bit wasteful, but it spreads the seeds around and is the most efficient way to gather them. So I have a flat basket I use, but any large stiff container should work. And then I get a stick, and then I just whack them into the basket. So as you can see, plenty kind of go flying. I kind of wish I had a little bit bigger basket, but it is nice for getting in areas like this and being able, let me get these. You can shove it into the plant and get a lot of fruits from otherwise awkward to reach areas. And as long as it's below, you should be getting most of the fruits. And a swift, sure strike is the best technique. But sometimes it's helpful to fiddle around in there. And you can also sort of hit it at an angle. See how this isn't quite underneath it? If I hit it towards the basket, they tend to fly into the basket. But they're not very good when they're unripe, so you want to make sure they're as dark red as possible. But another benefit for this method is that only the ripe ones tend to fall. So you can come back to a plant time after time, and as the fruits ripen, you can be getting just the ripe ones and allowing them to ripen on the plant. And the stick's helpful for moving branches out of the way and kind of getting in there. I like to wear long sleeve shirts when gathering Agarita because they're very prickly branches and will scratch your arms all up when you're trying to get in there and reach the basket in. And even a pair of gloves might be nice, but I didn't bother. As you can see, I left a ton on the plant because it's always good to leave some for wildlife. I actually gathered more from that than I usually do to show you how much can be gathered in such a short time. I'd gathered a few before this, but this is mostly just from this one plant. And there's lots of plants like this all around me. I can see several full of fruits right there, and there. But you're going to be left with a bunch of leaves and sticks and snails and some bugs. The bugs tend to walk off by themselves, but I like to pick off the big ones by hand, and then I do a water sorting to clean them off, and I'll show you how to do that. If you want to make sure you've gotten all the berries, don't want to waste any, you can try what you might have heard of good advice for the Agarita collection is to put a sheet or a tarp or something underneath the entire plant. But it can take a while to really spread the sheet out into a plant like this, and that's kind of a pain to do in the first place, and you have a lot of intermittent shrubs. It quickly becomes impossible. So this is an alternate method that's a little bit more flexible. So that took about And 10 minutes to do. So at this point, you'll notice that the stems and some leaves and other debris is clinging to the basket, and that's the basic principle I'm going to be using to clean off these berries. First, I'll just give them a rinse because they're already in this colander, but that's not really getting the bigger debris out. Use the principle of when it's wet, the debris will stick to stuff, whereas the ripe berries will roll off. So as you can see, I'm dipping my hands in there, the debris gets stuck to my hands, then I just sling the debris off. You can rinse it off if you have running water nearby, but you just keep doing this over and over, and eventually all that debris will come out. You can rinse it off in the colander, but you can also repeatedly do the same process by putting the berries onto that basket and basically using the basket as a substitute for your hands. You can see me doing that with the end of this batch, and the leftover debris is stuck on the basket, and I'll rinse it off. So you can keep on putting it on the basket and then rinsing it off instead of using the thing with your hands, but I find it's a little bit quicker just to do it by hands. But I tend to do a little bit of the basket at the end in addition to using my hands.